When I sent our engagement ring to my wife while she was drinking with her lover, I thought it would end our marriage. What happened next left me speechless. Betrayal cuts deep, but revenge? That's an art form. Now my 8-year-old daughter is caught in the crossfire of a war neither of us saw coming. My name is Warren Mitchell. I'm 43 years old, and after nearly 18 years of marriage, I discover my wife was cheating on me in the most gut-wrenching way possible. Looking back, I should have seen it coming. The late nights, the sudden password changes on her phone, the way she'd step outside to take calls. Classic signs that any self-respecting man would have confronted immediately. But I was too busy building our life, running my historical tour business in downtown Portland, and raising our daughter Megan, who we'd adopted 5 years ago after years of failed fertility treatments. The adoption had been Denise's idea. After we'd spent thousands on treatments that went nowhere, she'd suggested we give a home to a child who needed one. I agreed, thinking it might strengthen our marriage, which had begun showing hairline fractures after our third round of IVF failed. When Megan came into our lives at 3 years old, scared and silent from her time in the system, something changed in both of us. For a while, we were stronger, more united. I thought we had weathered the storm. My business conducting theatrical historical tours of Portland's underground wasn't making me rich, but it was steady. We had paid off most of our mortgage, had decent retirement savings, and lived comfortably in our Craftsman home in the Selwood neighborhood. Denise's consulting business helping tech-addicted professionals unplug was somewhat ironic given her own attachment to her devices, but it had taken off in the last 2 years. She was pulling in almost twice what I made, something she never let me forget during our increasingly frequent arguments. That Tuesday night, I was helping Megan with her science project, a diorama of the solar system, when Denise announced she had a digital intervention for a client downtown and would be home late. "Don't wait up," she said, kissing the top of Megan's head but barely glancing at me. I nodded, focused on helping Megan attach Neptune to its wire. "Good luck deprogramming another screen zombie," I joked, using our old nickname for her clients. Her expression flickered, annoyance, maybe guilt, before she forced a smile. "Someone's got to do it." After she left, I looked at my watch. 7:30 p.m., an odd time for a client meeting. But I brushed it off, the way I'd been brushing off so many things lately. "Is Mommy mad at you?" Megan asked, her small fingers working on a blob of blue clay that was supposed to be earth. "No, honey, I lied. Mommy's just busy with work." "Then why does she look at you like she smells something bad?" Out of the mouths of babes. I had no answer for that one. That night, after tucking Megan into bed with her favorite stuffed dinosaur, I tried to focus on paperwork for my next historical tour. Portland's underground tunnels had once housed a thriving red light district, and tourists ate that stuff up. But my mind kept drifting to Denise and her late-night client meeting. I texted her around 10 p.m. "How's it going? Need me to pick you up?" No response. By 11, something didn't sit right. Denise's digital interventions rarely ran past 9, and she was usually home by 10, complaining about tech executives who couldn't put down their phones while lecturing others to do so. I opened my laptop and checked our shared location app, something we'd set up years ago for safety when Megan came into our lives. The blue dot showing Denise's phone wasn't at any office building or coffee shop. It was at the Whiskey Jar, a dimly lit bar downtown known for its private booths and craft cocktails. My stomach twisted into knots. This wasn't a business meeting. I almost grabbed my keys to drive down there. Then I stopped. What would I accomplish by storming in? Creating a scene? Scaring Megan by leaving her with a hastily called neighbor? Instead, I did something that would send a clear message. I went to our bedroom and opened Denise's jewelry box, finding the vintage engagement ring that had been my grandmother's, the one I'd given her 18 years ago on a beach in Cannon Beach. The emerald-cut diamond caught the light as I placed it in a small velvet box. With a steady hand that belied the earthquake happening inside me, I wrote a note. "Thought you might want to show him this. Is he worth throwing away 18 years?" I called a 24-hour courier service, and 40 minutes later, handed the package to a bored-looking guy in a baseball cap, giving him explicit instructions and a $100 tip to ensure delivery directly to Denise at the Whiskey Jar. "Make sure she opens it," I said. The courier nodded, probably thinking this was some romantic gesture. After he left, I poured myself 2 fingers of bourbon and sat in the dark living room, waiting. What would happen next would either end my marriage or begin the hardest conversation of my life. My phone buzzed at 12:22 a.m. Denise. What the hell, Warren? Are you serious right now? I didn't respond. 5 minutes later, another text. Answer your phone. This is childish. 3 missed calls followed. Then, from an unknown number, hey man, you don't know me, but I think we should talk about your wife. Vince. It had to be. My hand shook as I set the phone down, screen dark. I took another sip of bourbon and waited for the storm to hit my front door. I heard her car screech into the driveway at 12:47 a.m. Our bedroom faced the street, and I could see Megan stir slightly at the sound but mercifully stay asleep. I waited in the living room, lights off except for a single lamp, bourbon in hand. Not my third, not even my second. I needed clarity for what was coming. The front door flew open with enough force to rattle the photos on our hallway wall. 15 years of memories, vacations, Megan's adoption day. Denise stormed in, still clutching the velvet box, her face flushed with either embarrassment or anger. Probably both. What the hell is wrong with you? She hissed, keeping her voice low enough not to wake Megan. You sent our wedding ring to a public place? Do you have any idea how humiliating that was? I took a slow sip of my drink, feeling strangely calm. About as humiliating as finding out your wife is cheating on you through a location app? It's not what you think, she started, the classic line from every bad movie. Save it. I cut her off. Is Vince coming too? Or did you leave him to pay the tab? Her eyes widened. How do you know his name? He texted me. Seems eager to chat about my wife. I set my glass down. So, how long has this been going on? She collapsed onto the armchair across from me, the fight momentarily leaving her body. A few months. It just happened. Things don't just happen, Denise. You make choices. You chose to lie. You chose to sneak around. You chose to risk our family. Our family, she repeated with a bitter laugh. When was the last time you asked about my day? When was the last time you noticed anything about me that wasn't related to Megan or your damn tours? Don't you dare make this my fault, I said, my voice hardening. If you were unhappy, you could have talked to me. That's what adults do in a marriage. They don't go running to some guy at a bar. He listens to me, she shot back. He sees me as more than just Megan's mom or your wife. And I see you as the woman who stood before me and promised for better or worse. 18 years, Denise. 18 years. Thrown away for what? A few drinks and compliment from a guy who's barely older than our marriage. She looked away, her fingers nervously turning the ring box over and over. What are you going to do? That depends on you, I said, standing up. Is it over with him? She hesitated, just a second too long. Jesus, I whispered. You still want him? I don't know what I want, she admitted. Well, I know what I don't want. A wife who can't decide if her family is worth fighting for. I walked to the door and held it open. So maybe you should go figure that out somewhere else tonight. You're throwing me out? What about Megan? I'm not throwing you out. I'm asking you to give me space while you decide if our vows meant anything. Megan will be fine with me until you figure out your priorities. She stared at me in shock. This wasn't the reaction she'd expected. Not tears or begging or blind rage, but calm resolve. For the first time that night, I saw fear in her eyes. Warren, just go, Denise. We'll talk when you're ready to be honest. With me and yourself. She grabbed her purse, hands shaking. This isn't over. No, I agreed as she brushed past me. But something is. The house felt unnaturally quiet the next morning. I'd barely slept, sitting up most of the night, replaying the confrontation with Denise over and over in my mind. By 6 a.m., I gave up on sleep and made coffee, reviewing the day's logistics. I had a tour scheduled at 2 p.m., and Megan needed to be picked up from school at 3:30. I was buttering toast when Megan wandered into the kitchen, still in her dinosaur pajamas, her brown hair a tangled mess. Where's Mommy? She asked, climbing onto her usual stool at the counter. I set a glass of orange juice in front of her. Mommy had to go out early for work. The lie tasted bitter, but I wouldn't drag our daughter into adult problems. Megan's eyes narrowed with that eerie perceptiveness that children sometimes have. Is she mad at you? We had a disagreement, I said carefully. But that's between Mommy and me. Nothing for you to worry about, okay? She nodded, but didn't seem convinced. After dropping Megan at school, I received a text from Denise. We need to talk. Can I come by the house? I responded with a single word. When? Noon. Fine. I spent the morning making calls to reschedule my afternoon tour, claiming a family emergency. 10 years building my business, and I'd never canceled a tour before. The irony wasn't lost on me. Denise arrived precisely at noon, looking like she'd slept about as well as I had. No makeup, hair pulled back in a hasty ponytail. Nothing like the carefully composed woman who'd stormed out last night. "Thanks for seeing me," she said, as if we were business acquaintances. "This is still your house," I replied, gesturing to the living room. "You want coffee?" She shook her head and sat on the edge of the couch. Our couch, where we'd watched movies with Megan, where we'd made love after putting her to bed. Now it felt like neutral territory in a war zone. "I stayed at Vince's last night," she stated bluntly. I felt a muscle twitch in my jaw, but kept my expression neutral. "I figured. It's not what you think. I mean, it is, but it's complicated." She twisted her hands in her lap. "I'm not in love with him, Warren." "That makes it worse, not better," I said, my voice calm despite the churning in my gut. "So what is this? A midlife crisis? Boredom? You've been so consumed with your business and Megan. I just disappeared from your radar." Her voice wavered. "Vince made me feel visible again. Important. And that justifies lying to me? To our daughter?" "No," she admitted, looking down. "It doesn't." I leaned forward. "Here's what I don't understand, Denise. If you felt neglected, why not say something? We've been together 18 years. Since when do we not talk about problems?" "Because you'd have dismissed it, just like you're doing now, making this all my fault." "The affair is your fault," I said firmly. "If there were problems in our marriage, that's on both of us. But you chose to cheat. You, not me." She stood abruptly. "I should go. This isn't productive." "Running away again? That seems to be your solution to everything these days." Her eyes flashed. "What do you want from me, Warren? Groveling? Self-flagellation? I want honesty. I want to know if our marriage is worth fighting for, or if I'm just holding on to something that's already dead." The question hung between us like a live grenade, neither of us brave enough to pick it up. "I don't know," she finally whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I honestly don't know." 3 days passed in an uneasy truce. Denise had moved into the guest room, and we maintained a polite facade for Megan's sake. We hadn't resolved anything, but at least we weren't actively tearing each other apart. I was in my home office working on next month's tour schedule when the doorbell rang. Denise was out grocery shopping with Megan, so I answered it myself. A man in his mid-30s stood on my porch, athletic build, expensively casual clothes, artfully tousled hair. I knew instantly who he was. "Vince," I said, not a question. He had the decency to look uncomfortable. "Warren." I figured it was time we talked face to face. Every muscle in my body tensed, but I stepped back and gestured him in. Better to have this conversation inside than create a neighborhood spectacle. "Nice place," he commented, looking around our living room. "Let's cut the small talk," I said. "You're sleeping with my wife. What exactly do we have to discuss?" He settled onto our couch like he belonged there. "I think you've got the wrong idea about me." "Enlighten me, then." I crossed my arms, remaining standing. "Denise and I, it wasn't planned. We met at a digital marketing conference, got talking about work. One thing led to another." "Spare me the details," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. "Why are you here?" "Because Denise is torn up about this." He leaned forward, earnest. "She cares about you and Megan. She never wanted to hurt anyone." I laughed, a harsh sound. "Yet here we are." "Did she send you to plead her case?" "She doesn't know I'm here," he admitted. "Look, I'm not the bad guy you think I am. I'm just a guy who knowingly sleeps with married women." "Yeah, real stand-up character." His expression hardened. "Marriages fall apart all the time, man. If it wasn't me, it would have been someone else." "Denise wasn't happy. And you think you can make her happy?" I challenged. "You know nothing about her life. 18 years together. A daughter who adores her. You're just new and shiny, Vince. A distraction. Maybe," he shrugged. "Or maybe I'm what she needs right now." Something in his smug confidence snapped my restraint. I stepped closer. "Let me be clear. If Denise wants to leave, I won't stop her. But if you think you can waltz in here and lecture me about my marriage, you're severely mistaken." He stood, bringing us eye to eye. "I didn't come to fight." "Then why did you come? To size up the competition? To mark your territory? To understand what she's giving up?" he said quietly. I needed to see. The front door opened before I could respond. Denise froze in the entryway, Megan half hidden behind her, both clutching grocery bags. Vince. Denise's voice was strangled. What are you doing here? Just having a chat with your husband, he replied, moving toward the door. I'll call you later. After he left, Denise sent Megan upstairs with her tablet. The silence between us was deafening. I didn't ask him to come, she finally said. I believe you. And strangely, I did. You want to check out what he's up against. Warren, you need to decide, Denise. Not tomorrow, not next week. Now, him or your family. Because I won't live in limbo while you figure out your feelings. I need time to think, Denise said, her voice barely above a whisper. Time isn't what you need, I replied, keeping my voice level despite the anger bubbling inside me. You need to make a choice. It's not that simple, Warren. Actually, it is. You stay and we work through this. Or you go with him. There's no third option where you get to test drive both lives. Megan's footsteps thumped overhead, reminding us both of what was at stake. Denise glanced toward the ceiling, her expression torn. Can we talk about this tonight? After Megan's in bed. I nodded curtly. Fine. But tonight, we resolve this. The rest of the day passed in a blur. I threw myself into work, refining my tour script about Portland-Shanghai tunnels, while Denise took Megan to her swim lesson. By dinner time, we were all seated around the table, Megan chattering about her day, oblivious to the tension between her parents. After tucking Megan in, I found Denise sitting in our backyard, wrapped in a cardigan against the evening chill. She asked me if we're getting a divorce. Denise said without preamble. Kids pick up on everything. What did you tell her? That we're working through some grown-up problems, but we both love her very much. She looked up at me. I wasn't lying about that part. I sat across from her. I want to ask you something, and I need complete honesty. No sugarcoating. She nodded. Do you love him? Her eyes dropped to her hands. I don't know. I'm attracted to him. He makes me feel alive in ways I haven't felt in years. But love? I'm not sure. And me? After 18 years, are you still in love with me? Yes, she answered without hesitation. But it's different now. Complicated. Because you made it complicated, I pointed out. Look, I'm not claiming to be perfect. I know I've been focused on work, on providing for us. Maybe I took you for granted. But what you did. I know, she cut in. I'm not justifying it. I'm just trying to explain. So explain this. Is what you feel for him worth destroying our family? Worth hurting Megan? Worth throwing away everything we've built? She was silent for a long moment. If I stay, can you ever forgive me? Or will you hold this over my head forever? I don't know, I admitted. Forgiveness isn't a switch I can flip. It would take time, counseling, work from both of us. But I'm willing to try if you are. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. We both knew who it was. Go ahead, I said, standing up. Check it. Your choice is right there. She pulled out her phone, glanced at the message, then, to my surprise, turned it off completely and set it face down on the table. I choose my family, she said quietly. If you'll still have me, I want to stay and work through this. Relief flooded me, but caution held it in check. Words are easy, Denise. It's actions that matter. If you're serious, you need to end it with him. Completely. Tonight. I will, she promised. Right now, if you want. I want to believe you, I said, my voice rough with emotion. But trust is like glass. Once it's shattered, then we'll build something new. She reached for my hand. Something stronger. 2 weeks passed since Denise ended things with Vince. According to her, he hadn't taken it well. Angry calls, dozens of texts, even showing up at her office once. She'd been firm, even getting her number changed. Each action rebuilt a tiny fragment of my trust. We started seeing a marriage counselor, Dr. Levine, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s who didn't let either of us hide behind excuses. Rebuilding trust is like rehabilitating a broken limb, she told us during our third session. It requires consistent exercise, will be painful at times, and takes longer than you'd like. That night, after tucking Megan in, Denise and I sat on the back porch with glasses of wine. Our first real moment of relaxation together in weeks. I've been thinking about what Dr. Levine said, Denise began, about how affairs often happen when one person feels invisible. And I kept my tone neutral, fighting the defensiveness that still rose whenever the affair was mentioned. I felt invisible, but I never gave you a chance to see me, she admitted. I expected you to read my mind, to know I was unhappy without telling you. The honesty caught me off guard. I should have paid more attention. We both disconnected, she sighed. My business taking off, your focus on the tours and Megan. We became roommates instead of partners. So, where do we go from here? I asked. Forward, she said simply. Day by day. The next morning, I was preparing for a tour when my phone rang. An unknown number. I almost ignored it, then answered. Is this Warren Mitchell? A woman's voice, unfamiliar. Yes. Who's this? My name's Rebecca. You don't know me, but I think we have something in common. Vince Harlow. My blood ran cold. What about him? I saw your wife's name in his phone. When I confronted him, he admitted everything. Her voice wavered. I thought you should know he's been seeing both of us. There are probably others. After the call ended, I sat stunned. Vince wasn't just Denise's lover. He was a serial cheater, targeting multiple women simultaneously. That evening, I shared Rebecca's call with Denise. Instead of defensiveness, her face crumpled in humiliation. I feel like such a fool, she whispered. He said all these things about being drawn to me, specifically about our connection. She made air quotes, her expression bitter. It was all lies. He's a predator, I said. He knew exactly what to say. How can you be so understanding? She looked at me with reddened eyes. I betrayed our marriage for someone who was playing me. Because being angry won't fix us, I replied, surprising myself with the truth of it. And right now, fixing us is all I care about. That night, for the first time since discovering the affair, I held her while she cried. Not out of forgiveness. We weren't there yet. But out of compassion. It was a small step, but an important one. A month after Rebecca's call, our marriage had found a fragile new rhythm. Dr. Levine's weekly sessions helped us communicate better, and Denise had thrown herself into rebuilding our family, spending more time with Megan and adjusting her work schedule to be home most evenings. The real test came when Denise's consulting business landed a major tech company account, one that would require a 3-day trip to Seattle. I can turn it down, she offered as we prepared dinner. There will be other clients. I paused, knife hovering over the cutting board. The old Warren would have said yes, keep her close where I could see her. But that approach would only breed more resentment. No, I decided. This is a great opportunity. You should go. She studied my face. Are you sure? I don't want to. I understand if you're not comfortable with me traveling alone yet. I'm not comfortable, I admitted. But I can't keep you on a leash, Denise. That's not a marriage. It's a prison. That night, I lay awake wrestling with doubt. Trusting her again felt like stepping on a thin ice. Necessary to move forward, but terrifying. What if she contacted Vince while away? What if there was someone new? The morning she left, I helped her pack, tucking a small card into her suitcase while she was occupied with Megan. Just a simple note. I'm choosing to trust you. I'm choosing us. The 3 days crawled by. I kept myself busy with Megan and work, resisting the urge to check the location apps still installed on our phones. Trusting had to be a conscious choice, repeated moment by moment. When her car pulled in the driveway on the 3rd day, Megan raced outside while I held back, suddenly nervous. Denise swept our daughter into a hug, then met my eyes over Megan's head with a tired smile. Later, after Megan was in bed, Denise handed me her phone unlocked. What's this for? I asked. Check it, she said simply. I want you to. I stared at the device, then gently pushed it back toward her. No need. I want you to trust me, Warren, she insisted. But I know trust takes time to rebuild. So until then, I have nothing to hide. I took the phone reluctantly, scrolling through her calls, texts, and emails from the trip. Nothing suspicious, just business communications and messages to me and Megan. I kept your note with me the whole time, she said quietly. It meant everything to know you're trying, even when it's hard. It is hard, I admitted. But worth it, I think. I handed her phone back. How was the client? They signed a 2-year contract, she smiled. And they specifically want me as their consultant, not just someone from the firm. That's fantastic, I said, genuinely happy for her. We should celebrate. I'd like that, she replied, her eyes holding mine. Maybe just the 2 of us. Mrs. Peterson said Megan could have a sleepover with Amy anytime. It was a small invitation, tentative and hopeful. A date night, like we used to have before everything imploded. A step toward something new. I'd like that too, I said, feeling a knot loosen in my chest for the first time in months. 6 months after that first date night, Denise and I had found a new normal. Not the same marriage we'd had before. That was gone forever. But something different. Something that, in some ways, felt stronger for having been broken and carefully repaired. Our date nights became a twice-monthly ritual. We'd hired a regular babysitter for Megan, and tonight was our turn to reconnect. I'd planned dinner at Riverside, the restaurant where we'd celebrated our 5th anniversary years ago. "I have news," Denise said as we lingered over dessert. "The tech company I've been consulting for offered me a permanent position, head of digital wellness." "That's fantastic," I replied, reaching for her hand. "You've been killing it with them." "There's a catch," she continued, her expression uncertain. "It would mean relocating to Seattle." I felt my heart skip. "Seattle?" "Yes. It's a big ask, I know, especially after everything." She squeezed my hand. I told them I'd discuss it with my family first. That nothing happens without all of us on board. 6 months ago, this would have sent me spiraling. Was this her exit plan? A way to be closer to Vince? But we'd learned that Rebecca wasn't his only other victim. After several women came forward, he'd left Portland altogether when his reputation collapsed. "How do you feel about it?" I asked instead of rejecting it outright. "Professionally, it's a dream opportunity. Personally," she met my eyes. "I'm torn. This is our home. Megan's school, your business. I don't want to uproot everyone. My tours aren't just in Portland, you know," I said thoughtfully. "Seattle has its own underground history. The original city is buried beneath Pioneer Square, perfect for my theatrical approach." Her eyes widened. "You consider moving your business?" "For the right reasons," I nodded. "Megan's young enough to adapt. And maybe," I paused, collecting my thoughts, "maybe a fresh start wouldn't be the worst thing for us." "You're serious," she whispered. "I'm not saying yes yet," I cautioned. "We need to research schools for Megan, housing, whether my business model would transfer. But I'm saying I'm open to exploring it. Together." Her eyes filled with tears. "I never expected this." "That's marriage," I said simply. "Supporting each other's dreams, even when it's hard. That part hasn't changed." As we drove home, I realized something profound had shifted. For the first time since the affair, I was making decisions based on our future, not our past. The betrayal would always be part of our story, but it no longer defined us. 1 year to the day after I sent that engagement ring to the whiskey jar, we stood in our new Seattle home, surrounded by moving boxes. Megan raced from room to room, exploring her new territory with the resilience only a 9-year-old can muster. "What do you think?" Denise asked, standing beside me at the kitchen window that overlooked Puget Sound. "I think we made the right call," I replied, sliding an arm around her waist. The move had been challenging, but surprisingly healing. I'd sold my Portland tour business to my assistant manager and launched Underground Seattle Tours with considerable success. The fresh start energized my creative approach, and bookings were already solid through summer. Denise thrived at her new position, quickly becoming an integral part of the tech company's executive team. More importantly, our marriage had found solid ground again. The pain hadn't disappeared. It had transformed into something we could carry without being crushed by it. That evening, after Megan was asleep, Denise handed me a small box as we sat on our new porch. "What's this?" I asked. "Open it," she urged. Inside was a man's wedding band, platinum, sleek, and obviously new. "I thought we could renew our vows," she explained, her voice soft. "Not a big ceremony, just us and Megan. A fresh start for our second chapter." I studied the ring, emotion tightening my chest. "You know the old one is still perfectly good." "I know," she nodded. "But that ring belongs to our first chapter, all the good and bad that came with it. I thought maybe we deserve something new to symbolize where we are now, not where we've been." I slipped the ring on. A perfect fit. "When did you get so wise?" "Around the time I almost lost everything that mattered," she replied, her eyes holding mine. "Warren, I know we can never erase what happened. But this past year has shown me that sometimes what breaks can be rebuilt stronger than before." I leaned forward, pressing my forehead against hers. "I never thought we'd be here," I admitted. "That night, when I sent your ring to the bar, I was sure it was over." "It could have been," she acknowledged. "But you were brave enough to stay and fight for us, even when I didn't deserve it." "We both fought," I corrected her. "And here we are." As the Seattle skyline glittered across the water, I realized the depth of what we'd accomplished. We'd walked through fire and emerged scarred but intact, our bond tested and ultimately strengthened. The future stretched before us, not perfect, but ours to shape together. To new beginnings, I whispered, kissing her softly. And hard-earned second chances, she replied.